don't worry. He's not out. He's just in a different studio because he will be filling in for the principal, Curtis Long. So he will have you at 3 o'clock for the Blazers pregame show. And then, of course, we got Blazers, Pacers coming your way. And then Chad will have your postgame show. And I'll be right back here for the fifth quarter. But right now, we are here. We're having fun. It's a beautiful, beautiful. Is it winter yet? Can we just start calling it winter? Like, is Thanksgiving the cutoff? Like, once you hit Thanksgiving, it's not fall anymore. Like, it might be orange and, got those colors out there, but it's not fall. Winter, it feels like it. It is a chilly day out there in Portland, but you know what? The sky is blue, the sun is shining, things are looking up. We're having a good old day, but the Blazers, they aren't having the best of times. They took one on the chin last night in Milwaukee, and boy, howdy, was that a tough game for the Blazers because, man, they were up by 26 points. 26 points against Giannis and Dame and company on the road, and the Bucks ended up making the comeback 108-102. Tough night for the Portland crowd. There was a lot of talk like, oh, man, look how good they were. They got up by this much. And then there was also but they also let that lead drop. And how did they let that lead drop? Well, first off, it was just, it sounds cliche, but it's just tired legs, man. Tired legs. At the end of that game, the team, they were struggling to run. They were struggling to run. And Milwaukee, to their credit, I think Milwaukee paced themselves. They are a veteran-laden team, and they did what a vet team does, and they played smart. They completely paced themselves so that at the end of the game, they could foot on the gas, and they weren't out of gas. They still had plenty in the tank. And it was about midway through that third quarter, really, where all of a sudden, as I'm watching, I'm like, oh, yeah, it's not Milwaukee didn't forget how to play defense. They've just decided to wait a little bit. They're playing it now, though, and they started to lock down the Blazers, and the Blazers struggled from there. Now, I thought the ball movement for the Blazers was good. They were able to get their shots off. They were able to get going. And even in the fourth quarter there, they had shots that I think, for the most part, coach will go look at and go, yeah, we can live with that. We can live with that. That's not a bad shot. They're going to fall eventually. But you got to remember, this Blazer team is not the offensive Blazer team of yesteryear, right? They are a little bit limited on that end. So when they came out of the gates hot, right? And Tamani Kamara was hitting, and Scoot Henderson hit his first three-point attempts, which we will get to later on what's the Scoot. Everything was hitting. The offense was humming. The Blazers got up big. But then when the shots stopped falling, that lead crumbled, and it crumbled quickly for the home team, the Milwaukee Bucks. I almost said for the Blazers, but that's just because Damian Lillard was the name I was getting to, and it still feels weird to say Damian Lillard and not reference the Blazers. That's ouch. I don't know if I like that very much. But Damian Lillard, 31 points, 7-21 shooting, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. Good game for him. Giannis pitched in 33, 16, and 6. And he made that look effortless along the way as well. And again, for the Blazers, a good game from Jeremy Grant, 22 points. Got 14 and 13 from DeAndre Ayton, which is good. I'd like to get him scoring more, but it's still not a bad output of a game, right? The tough part is DeAndre Ayton had 14 points, and you look at the box score, like, oh, they got him to the line, which they hadn't been doing and been struggling there. He got to the line 6 times, which isn't a ton, but that did lead the team in free throw attempts, tied there with Jeremy Grant. But he also shot 5 of 6 from the floor, so he was getting those few shots, but he was taking advantage of them. Blazers ideally need to find a way to get him more involved because he's playing well, man. Find a way. I mean, 7-23 from Malcolm Brogdon, 7 of 19 from Shaedon Sharpe. Those guys struggling just a little bit with the shot, but overall, man, it's hard. It's hard to be too upset because they played really well, but it's just kind of classic Blazering as of late, where the Blazers look really good for, 3 quarters, sometimes 2.5, and then that fourth quarter, the wheels fall off. And in case you didn't know, outscored in that fourth quarter were the Blazers 33-14. So not the greatest of outputs for the Blazers. All right, let's take a chance, though, to listen to some audio that came out of that game. First off, let's hear from Coach Chauncey Billups, who's talking to the media after the game about the loss to Milwaukee.
You know, we didn't lose this game down the stretch, first and foremost. So, yeah, we need to be better. And, you know, we had a couple of shots that we thought could have really changed everything. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's a good teaching moment for us. You know, a lot of our young guys being able to sustain the way that we were playing, which was tough to do. I mean, the first half we played really fast. We rebound, we play, we going. We got the ball popping, we got it moving. And in the third quarter, we just didn't have that opportunity with the foul calls that was made. You know, when a team is shooting free throws, you can't run, obviously. So, you know, that changed the way that we had to play the game, you know, and it became kind of a half-court game. And, you know, they're a better half-court team than we are right now. I mean, you look at Giannis and Dame, and, you know, they shoot 32 free throws together. Not one other player on their team shot a free throw, but they did. They put their head down and, you know, and forced the whistle. So it was a tough one. It was a tough one, but I'm proud of our dudes. They played their butts off, and they did the best that they can.
You heard it. He's proud of his dudes. They played their butts off. They did. I mean, they played well. I mean, this team is going to take, as I've said all year long, it is the word of the season, lumps. Going to take their lumps. I think this one, though, hurts just a little bit more than some of the losses that you've had, just because they were out to such a big lead. And you don't see a 26-point lead fall apart that often in the NBA. But again, you don't have firepower. That team has Giannis and Dame. You have to run your offensive sets through Malcolm Brogdon, which he's been good for the Blazers, but he's not the answer at that point. It just becomes a little bit of a struggle. Coach Billups, though, that wasn't the only thing he talked about. He also talked about the composure of his team during this one.
To be a good team, a really, really good team contending in this league, you got to have composure. And I thought that our composure was good for the most part, but when it really, really counted, we came unraveled a little bit, you know, and that's a very experienced group, you know. So it's a game like this that's exactly what you want us to be, you know, to learn from that. You know, all of our guys and all of our team, there's a lot of lessons in this game.
There was a lot of lessons to learn in this, and they're going to learn lessons all year long. It's the ability to show that they're actually learning them, right? Like, I could sit in class in college all I wanted. I could sit and listen to the teacher all term long. I could take notes if I wanted. Was I ready for the test? Maybe, maybe not. Did I really learn something, right? Just because you're in the environment and watching and seeing things going on doesn't mean you're learning. You have to be open eyes, open ears, open mind. So you would hope that this Blazer team, through these situations where they are getting learning opportunities, is doing just that. Learning. Taking the chance so when the test comes, they start to pass the test. Now, there are things that will help this team moving forward. Of course, you got to get the legs back. You got to get going. You got Sharp looked really, really good to start the year, and now his shot's struggling. I mean, there was a point, I think it was early in the game, maybe second quarter, can't remember exactly, but I remember the play, and it was a missed three-point attempt. DeAndre Ayton gets the offensive rebound, turns around, gets it to Shaedon Sharpe. Shaedon Sharpe has a wide-open 10-foot jumper, and he shoots, bricks it. Like, bricks it. Like, if you're going to be the number two, like, not the number two, the two guard on this team, and you're going to hit those shots, you got to hit them. If you're going to take those shots, you got to hit them, right? And now Kevin Calabro, like he said on the chat, or on the stream, he's like, the stream, I'm so used to YouTube. My apologies. My goodness. Like he said on the broadcast, like, oh, looked like he didn't know if he wanted to bank it or just go for nothing but net. Like, you should know. Just shoot that shot and make it with confidence. I don't know where that's going, but he's just not shooting the ball or looking like he did early in the year. And that's a little bit of a struggle for him and the Blazers overall. And again, when those shots aren't falling, teams make big second half comebacks. And Coach Billups talked a little bit about that.
I thought once I've seen it, I thought that it would be a successful challenge because he got the ball first and then the hand, but I knew we had possession of the ball. So I'm thinking we got the ball. And truth of the matter, I learn something every night, you know. I just learn something every night. So, but even with that being said, I mean, it's a jump ball situation. I thought I thought we had the jump ball, you know, and even that tip went the wrong way, you know, just a bad bounce on that one.
Yeah, there it was. That was not about the second half comeback. That was about the second half comeback by the Bucks, and then some terrible officiating down the stretch that led to some very, very head-scratching situations. Like, what's going on there? Like, DeAndre Ayton has the ball, but suddenly they don't have possession, and what's going on? Like, it was an interesting situation. If you were listening to Travis Demers on the radio call, he was absolutely losing his mind. And that's why Coach Billups said right there, like, I learn something new every day. Like, that's that backhand, you know, comment. Like, yeah, didn't know that was a thing. Thanks for teaching me. I'm going to have to go read the rule book. I don't know if it really is, though. Thanks. But here's the thing. Officiating wasn't the reason they lost that game, right? Now, it's always so easy to point to the last play or the things that happened in the last 30 seconds, right? Team trailing by 2 on the 30-yard line, and they roll out their field goal kicker. He pushes it wide right. It's easy to blame the kicker for losing that game. But you got to remember, there was almost 4 full quarters before that led to all the situations that resulted in that final play. And same with the Blazers. It's easy to look at that officiating call and say, oh, if they would have just gave the Blazers possession like it should have been, they would have had another chance, could have got a shot. Maybe they could. Yeah. But they were up by almost 30 points. And a ton of stuff had to happen for that 30-point lead to go away. All right, we're going to take a quick break here on Blazers Game Day. When we return, we're going to listen to Damian Lillard, hear what he had to say after the game, the very first game he played against his former team. We're also going to get you updated with What's the Scoot? Talk about Scoot Henderson. Plenty more to come here on Blazers Game Day on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620.
The best performing team requires the best workstations. What's the Scoot is brought to you by Office Furniture Reborn. Need desks, better office chairs, or just the right file cabinet? Office Furniture Reborn has a huge selection of colors and sizes to choose from. So drop by Office Furniture Reborn's huge showroom just off Pacific Highway in 217 or visit www.officefurniturereborn.com.
That's right. It is time for What's the Scoop, where we take a look at Scoot Henderson, see how he's doing. And I'll tell you what, it is nice that What's the Scoop is no longer about, okay, he is still dealing with that ankle injury, no timetable. He's still dealing with the ankle injury, no timetable. Like, that's how it was forever with Chad. And then, like, Chad and I got all excited because, like, Chad, he's been upgraded to questionable. Now we get to actually, like, get an update in there. And that was kind of nice. And now he's on the court, and he had the first game back where he was limited to 15 minutes. This was the game number 2 back for him. Still limited time-wise on a restriction if you were 27 minutes. My assumption is that thing might be lifted fairly quickly. But the big question is whether or not he gets back into the starting lineup. Do they like having Malcolm Brogdon there and bringing him off the bench? I know there's a lot of people in favor of that because he looks comfortable. Right, he gets to run with the second unit, and he's not pushing too hard. He just gets to play within himself. Now, of course, I would love to see him kind of back in the starting lineup. That's where he kind of deserves to be, in my opinion. You're not trading Damian Lillard away and opening up the doors and drafting him number 3 just to bring him off the bench constantly. So I do think that's eventually going to turn. But you have to talk about the game that he had in Milwaukee last night. I mean, he's not going to say as much. The team's probably not going to say as much, but he does go into this game with a little bit of pressure, right? Because you're like, okay, you haven't looked very good up to this point. He has struggled, that's for sure. Now you got to go play against Dame, the guy they traded away to open up a spot for you. Come in here, see what you could do. And honestly, he had probably the best game of his career, right? 13 points. He had 4 rebounds. Just a single assist, but again, I mean, he's playing a lot of minutes with the non-shooters on the team, and there is really no shooters on the team right now because your best, air quotes, shooter outside of Jeremy Grant is Shaedon Sharpe, and he's struggling. And then, of course, Ant ain't playing right now, still dealing with his injury. But he hit 3 of 4 three-pointers, which I think Blazer fans love to see. Like, this guy hit more three-pointers in this game than he had it into his entire career up to that point. So that's good. And you want to see that, you want to continue that progression. What Blazer fans really need from Scoot is I need that 20-pointer, right? I need him to go out there, drop 20 and 10, right? Maybe get a couple of rebounds there too, and you feel good about it. Like, okay, that's the guy we want to see here. Because everything about Scoot, right? The explosiveness. He could go create his own shot. He's going to move. He's going to play defense. We've seen little tiny sprinkles of it, right? But we haven't seen it all put together yet. And we need to see it all put together into one cohesive game. We've seen games where the defense looks good. We've seen games where the assist numbers look incredible. We've seen games where the shot is starting to fall like it was last night, shooting 50% from the floor in total. Just got to put it all together. Because this is the guy that they drafted 3rd overall, traded the face of their franchise to open up minutes for. You want him to be that dude. You want him to be that dude. The last thing the Blazers can, do right now is have that have been a wasted pick. So you want to continue to see him grow, continue to get his, right? Continue to get comfortable. That's the biggest thing. Just find that comfort level. Because I feel like a little bit they've been trying to make Scoot kind of not Scoot, right? Like, he hasn't been playing completely how we saw him play in the G League. He's not playing as loose and free as I expected. He's playing a little more tight, almost wound up, right? And there were situations, like even last night, I was like, okay, there was a lot of situations where Malcolm Brogdon was bringing the ball up and Scoot was playing off. And I get that they're probably trying to teach him a little bit of that off-ball stuff. I get it. It is important, I said this early in the season, to learn what it's like to play off the ball, because then you know where guys are going to be when you have the ball in your hand. You start to learn. But at the same time, this guy is a point guard. And he is a guy that you drafted to be the future. I want to see the ball in his hands. Let him run the offense. Let him bring the ball up. Let him do those things. Let him progress that way. Let him be Scoot. The biggest failure that they could do to that young man as a franchise, as a coaching staff, as a fan base, frankly, is wish for him to be like Dame. I mean, Ant has turned into his own player, but for the longest time with Ant, it was always, oh, he could be the next CJ. He could be the next Dame. He does this just like CJ. He does this just like Dame. It's just the constant comparison. And I think this team just needs to let Scoot be Scoot. That's what I want to see. And I think the sooner that happens, the better he's going to be. I think that's where you start to see those 20-point performances. When he can just go out and ball. And again, he isn't wound tight. He's like, man, if you do anything like this the whole time, right? You know, this is exaggerated for those of you looking on YouTube. I mean, your shoulders are up, everything, your back is arched because you're just so tight you can't play loose. Nothing's going to be good. You couldn't write an article if you were a journalist. You couldn't edit anything on photo. You could do nothing that wound tight, and that just got to relax. That's what I want to see from him. Again, we've seen it in spurts. We've seen sprinkles. I want to see the whole thing. Now, another standout from this game, and we'll get to Dame in a minute. We'll probably take him to the next segment because I don't want to. You know what? I just talked about Scoot, so I need to talk about Dame in the same segment. Same thing. I'm not trying to compare. So he'll have to wait for a commercial break. But I will say one thing I liked about this game, outside of Scoot having, again, probably his best game of his young career. Once again, I think the Blazers showed you they might have something in Toumani Camara. Again, now Camara doesn't light up the scoreboard. That's not his thing. He did hit 2 3-pointers. He had 6 points, 3 rebounds. Solid game. Played just 17 minutes. But it's telling to me what the coaching staff thinks about him when Damian Lillard is bringing the ball up the court and Toumani Camara, the rookie, is who they had guarding him. They put Toumani on Dame early in that game. And then what I really liked about how they approached that was there was plenty of team defense going on. It wasn't just straight, hey, that's your man, that's your man, that's your man, stay. Fight through a screen, we'll switch if we need to. Toumani brought Dame up the court. A couple possessions later, I watched Matisse Thybulle do it. I watched Jeremy Grant get him at the half court and then try to body him the whole time. They were playing some very good team defense, which I like. Starting to learn what people's strengths and weaknesses are, starting to learn where people are going to rotate, when they're going to switch, how to switch, what to do. You going over, you going under, all those things that make a good defensive team. You started to see the team do a little bit of it last night, especially in that first half. And I thought that was great. And then again, when you put Toumani Camara on one of the greatest point guards of his generation, yeah, you're saying that young man, I trust you to go play defense against the best. Man, when was the last time you had a guy you got excited with that? Thybulle, I tell you what, Thybulle's playing great defense as well. But like for me, when I say, when was the last time you had a player that you were just excited to go watch play defense? I think a lot of Blazer fans would probably agree with this. But for me, like, it was Wes. Wes was the last player that I just watched play defense. And I didn't care if he hit a shot all night long. Watching him play defense was just entertaining as all could be. Always fighting, always pushing, always irritating players. A defensive pest in a good way, right? Kind of like a prime Matthew Dellavedova. Was very good at that. Patrick Beverley has turned himself into a bit of a heel, right? But there was a stretch there, man. He was just a defensive pest. No one wanted to deal with that. Wes was the same. He just wasn't as arrogant about it as old Pat Bev. But Toumani's kind of turning into that for me. God, I just love watching him play. Like, you can watch him almost learn on the fly. Love to see it. Love to see it. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we return, we'll talk about Dame. We'll hear from him finally. I did say we would. So we'll hear from Dame, and we'll get your scoreboard updates and all that. Devin in the chat says Collins was pesky. Collins was pretty nice. He's playing pretty well over there in San Antonio. Look, for those of you listening on the radio, this is why Michael Shacker is a super producer. Cult of Personality, CM Punk. I love it. Don't go anywhere. Plenty more Blazers coming up here on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. All right, Shocker. Stick with cult of personality, okay? All right, welcome back into Blazers Game Day. Chris Burkhardt here with you. I'll be here with you till 3 o'clock. And then Chad doing the boss man. He'll take over. He's filling in for Curtis Long today over there on the Blazers pregame show. So he'll hand you guys some more content before the Blazers take on the Pacers at what I think is the best arena in the NBA, the old Conseco Fieldhouse or Bankers Life Fieldhouse or whatever is sponsoring it now, Fieldhouse over there in Indiana, which if you haven't been to, highly suggest you go to. That was an arena that you can tell was built for basketball in the heart of a state that loves its basketball. That field house is something else, man. Big time old school college vibes with the windows on one side that they can open up pre and post game and whatnot. And every single seat has just an amazing sight line to the court. Loved that arena. So highly suggest you put it on your Blazer road trip wish list if you ever want to get out to good old Indy. And the good part is it's close to a bunch of other places too. I mean, a couple hours drive, but you can end up getting to Cleveland or Chicago or Detroit or whatnot. Have some fun. Make a road trip out of it. Fans, that'd be fun. Portland fans do get the short end of the stick here, man. The fact that the closest road opponent, if they want to just get in their car and go, is a 9-hour drive down to Sacramento. Come on, just bring back the Sonic so Blazer fans can at least have air quotes decent road trip game if they wanted 2.5, 3 hours, depending on how fast you want to drive. Get up to Seattle, watch a game, come home when you're done. Why not? The closest one, Sacramento. Blazer fans don't even have an arena that they can drive to if they want. It's like Golden State, hour and a half from Golden State to Sacramento. Laker fans want to go on a road trip. They don't even have to leave their home arena. Nets fans want to go on a road trip. All they got to do is cross the Brooklyn Bridge. I mean, it's 5 miles between Madison Square Garden. It's yeah, we could leave early, but, we could walk if we wanted. Now, just take the subway. They'll get there. Let's bring back the Sonics. Bring back the Vancouver Grizzlies. Move the current Grizzlies to Nashville. Change their name so that you can take the Grizzly name back to Vancouver. I'll be a happy camper. All right, let's talk about more of that game last night in Milwaukee, because you can't talk about the game without talking about Damian Lillard, who, again, played his very first game against his former team, that team being the Portland Trailblazers. And this might have been the game where you really started to feel it. Now, the game that he returns back to Moda in January, that's going to be the one where I think it really hits Blazer fan in the gut. But last night, you're listening and you hear Travis or you hear Calabro say, "Oh, Lillard takes the three," and you close your eyes like I'm doing right now, and you just picture Dame in the Blazer jersey doing his thing, right? But when you opened your eyes up and you looked at the screen and you saw him in the Bucks jersey doing it to you, it hits you for a minute. You're like, oh, it's not like he's on the injured list. We're just waiting for him to come back. No, he's gone. Yeah, we know that he was gone when the trade was announced, when the trade request happened in July and all this stuff. But when you see it, because you could do the ostrich complex thing, right? You could put your head in the sand, not watch a Bucks game. You don't have to see it. But you do have to see it when he plays your team. So, man, that felt weird. That felt absolutely weird. I don't know how it made you guys feel. Jump on the YouTube chat. We are live on YouTube right now. Shout out to Devin Fritz. He's in the chat. But let's take a second to listen to Damian Lillard talking to the media last night after the game about what it was like to play against his former team.
Once I walked in, I, saw a lot of familiar faces. And I thought about going in the visitors' locker room for a second, but I was like, man, this a little bit different. And then when we got on the court, I saw everybody, and it was a weird feeling. But once we started playing, I kind of got over it quick. And just like before, I didn't think it would be a big thing or a crazy thing, and it wasn't. I spoke to everybody. And once we started playing, it obviously wasn't friendly. They jumped out and got a big lead on us. And I'm just happy we was able to get the win.
Well, there you go. Now, he said to himself, prior to the game, knowing this matchup was coming, that like this particular matchup wasn't going to have too much emotion attached to it, right? I mean, just look at the Blazer team that he had to go against last night. Tamani Kamara, never played with him. DeAndre Ayton, never played with him. Malcolm Brogdon, never played with him. Shaden Sharp basically played half a season with him. Jabari Walker, same. Duop Reith, never played with him. Scoot Henderson, never played with him. Matisse Thybulle played about a half a season with him. All the other DMPs, Mays, Brown, Murray, never played with him. Like, this is not his Blazer team anymore, really. I mean, yeah, he saw Ant and he saw Coach Billups, but he didn't play against Ant because he didn't play. And then he obviously was against Coach Billups' team. But it's just like they are Blazers in uniform only and name only to him. All the guys that he, battled and went through the trenches with, right? Nurk, Phoenix, CJ McCollum, New Orleans, Mo Harkless, Rip City Remix. More on that later. That's called a tease, my friend. They're all gone. The emotions are going to be when he comes back to Portland and you go through that tunnel, that little garage under the arena where you go in, all the players come through, home and away, come through the same tunnel. And you go through that tunnel for the very first time, and he goes down the hallway. If you ever go in, you go in, you take a right, and you go down the hallway. And if you go all the way to the end of the hallway, there's the Blazer locker room. But right at the beginning, to the left, there's the visiting locker room. The locker room that for over a decade, he got to walk right by every single time, 40-plus times a year. And now he's going to come back, and for the very first time, he's going to walk, and he's going to turn left. Someone needs to be there with a camera to see if the muscle memory takes over, to see if he walks by it. Because he very well might. And then the emotions will hit, because you're going to see the front office staff that you worked with. You're going to see all the ushers that you know. You're going to see the security guards back there. I mean, the security guards who monitor those locker room stuff, those are all people who have been there for decades, some of them. Guys who are sitting there outside the visiting locker room, the security guys there every single game. Guys who knew Kobe, knew Shaq, knew Dwight Howard, knew Dirk, right? Knew Pat, like first name basis with every star that came through. And so, Dame definitely knows everybody. Everybody. That's when the emotion's going to hit. That's going to be an interesting day for him. Because then I think it might be a little bit more than, oh, yeah, once the game started, it was just the same old. You're probably going to have a big tribute video. You're going to have 20,000 people with a mix of cheer and booze. There's a high probability that inside that building, you're going to see more Damian Lillard jerseys than you do in your current home building in Milwaukee. It's going to be a different feeling. That's for sure. But let's hear from Dame again about the win last night for Milwaukee and that comeback against the Blazers.
In this league, you never know what type of night a team is going to have, especially a talented team. When you let them get off to a good start and get confident, they can be trouble. And we've been in that situation a few times this season where our character was tested, our togetherness was tested, and, we showed true again.
Well, good for you, Dame. You showed true again. I just need you to show true again in Blazer colors. One day. Wonder if he ever comes back. He does like the LeBron, go away for a few years, come back. At the very least, he better sign like that one final 10-day to retire as a Blazer when his time comes. I don't know. I know I'm going on about it, but just last night just felt weird. I had this conversation with the Godfather, right? Because the Godfather has been around just a little bit longer than I have. I'm a young whippersnapper in this game. I was like, okay, Dwight, you remember Bill leaving. You remember Clyde leaving. You remember this guy, that guy leaving. I have never, until this year, covered a Blazer team that did not have Damian Lillard on it. I started covering this team professionally when I first got in the business back in 2014. I have never covered a Blazer team without Dame on it. So last night, seeing Dame in a Bucks jersey, weird. Don't know how I feel about it. Weird. That's a good way to put it. Now, before we go, speaking of weird, who knew? Who knew Mo Harkless would be part of the Blazer organization in 2023? That is right. The G League Rip City Remix play their home games down there on the bluff over at the University of Portland at Child Center. They announced yesterday that Maurice Harkless has signed with the team. Maurice Harkless looking to, kick the tires a little bit and find a way back into the NBA. So, boy, Blazer fans, buy the ticket. Get down to Child Center, watch Mo. As I sent one of my friends who was like, what, Mo signed in the G League? I'm like, well, he officially has the best smile in the G League. like if there's an award for it, it's his. Mo's great. Mo was awesome for Portland. I always argued that you knew the Blazers roster itself would be over the hump, right? In a new direction when Mo Harkless and Al-Farouq Aminu were coming off the bench. But because to me, they weren't true starters. They should have been those sixth and seventh man, great rotation energy guys. But you milked those lemons, oranges, whatever they were, for as much juice as you could. And boy, did they give you their all. Like, I don't think Mo Harkless has a hater in this city, nor does Al-Farouq Aminu. So to see Mo Harkless getting a run here with the Rip City remix, that's awesome. That's really awesome. I don't think he's going to wear a Blazer uniform. Maybe his team comes in, needs some depth, and maybe they sign him if he plays well. But you never know. Interestingly enough, Mo Harkless, only 30 years old. A little bit younger than I thought. But I thought that was a cool little note there. Also, remember, Coach Moran over there with the Rip City Remix. He was on Terry Stotts' staff, so he knows Mo very well. So that's going to be a fun dynamic to watch. Wasn't on my calendar, but I might have to get out to a remix game just to see Mo Harkless. All right, we're going to take a quick break here on Blazer Game Day. When we come back, we're going to get you your scoreboard update from around the league, get you some sports updates if there's anything out there, and continue to get you ready. We're done talking Milwaukee, okay? We're going to get you ready for Blazers, Pacers coming up at 4 o'clock here on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. Welcome back into Blazers Game Day. Chris Burkhardt here, filling in for Chad Doing. You can find me on the old X app. Still don't like calling it that. Find me on Twitter at Chris J. Burkhardt, where you can talk to me all day long. Text or tweet me during the game. We'll have some fun. All right, let's look at a scoreboard update where there are 0 scores in the NBA to talk about because the Blazers, they're on the early slate today on this East Coast swing. First slate of games all start at 4 o'clock. You got the Wizards at Pistons in the battle of 2-14 teams. To the victor goes a longer road to getting the number 1 overall pick. Should be a good battle. Is that what you call it? We'll see. Trailblazers at Pacers, the 4-12 Blazers taking on the 9-6 Pacers. And as it was mentioned in the chat on YouTube, and then, turned into a big thing about Iowa State, a mention of Tyrese Halliburton, who's averaging 25.4 points, 12.1 assists, and 3.9 rebounds this season. Legit playing like a top 15, if not top 10 player in the league. He has been incredible for the Pacers. Also tipping off at 4 o'clock, Lakers at 76ers. That should be a good battle. The 10-7 Lakers versus the 11-5 76ers. Joel Embiid averaging 32, 11, and 6. LeBron James, all 50 years of him, 25.5 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists. This guy, holy smokes, there is no slowdown in him. Like, when does he reach the cliff? I don't know if he does. I don't know if he ever does. Like, honestly, I said 50 years old. He might very well play till he's 50. I kind of want to see it because this guy is still playing at an all-time, great level. It's absolutely unreal what LeBron is doing, but good battle there. In Philly at 6 o'clock, Pelicans taking on the Jazz. And the final game of the night on NBA TV at 7:30, the 11-6 Nuggets taking on the 7-8 Clippers. Again, no score updates because no games have tipped off. But that's your scoreboard report from around the NBA. And, of course, in the NFL tonight, you got Bears versus Vikings. And it's kind of a scoreboard report when we are looking and waiting for the final, well, not final, but the college football playoff rankings heading into championship weekend. It's going to have a good bearing on what might happen with the Ducks and all that stuff. We'll see. Because the Ducks got the win over the Oregon State Beavers on Friday, winning the Civil War. And now the Ducks probably will see, because gut tells me Georgia's probably still going to be 1, Michigan 2, Washington 3, Florida State 4. Ohio State might come in at 5, Oregon 6, Texas 7, right? Obviously Georgia needs to win. If Alabama wins, that throws them just a major wrench in everything. But the winner of this Pac-12 championship game should be in. It's going to be incredible. It's going to be interesting. Everyone's worried about Texas making the jump. Well, yeah, Texas has the big win over Alabama. Yeah, but if Oregon wins that game, they have a big win over Washington. Washington is a top 4 college football playoff team right now. And we'll see where they all sit when their rankings come out updated. But, dude, a win on Friday in Vegas might solidify their chances. I can't wait. If you guys don't know, Duck grad, big Duck fan. I want to see where it goes. But I'm not like some Duck fans. So I know we got Beaver listeners out there. And as a loyal Duck, I do feel for you. Because what happened to the Beavers over the weekend is terrible. Their guy, Jonathan Smith, the day after losing the rivalry game, the Civil War against the Ducks, announces that he's going to Michigan State. And Beaver fans are in shambles. And they should be. I mentioned this to someone today at work that, now you know a little bit what Duck fan felt like when Cristobal left. The only difference is this is Cristobal times 10 because Cristobal wasn't a guy that was Oregon's guy, right? He doesn't play O-line in Oregon. He wasn't a guy that Duck fans thought was going to be a lifer in the first place. coached the team well, got them in a good spot. But when he left, it sucked because we're like, oh, man, we were just doing good. We don't want to do this whole coaching search thing again. But it made sense he was leaving to go to his alma mater. When Willie Taggart left, it made sense he's going back home, Florida State. Coach Smith, he was home. He was the Beavers' best kid. And he comes back and he takes over the program that was just in shambles after Gary Anderson. And then they rose like a phoenix out of the ashes and became prominent again. Going to bowl games, winning bowl games, in contention for getting to conference championship games and everything. And then the Pac-12 dismantling happened, and Coach Smith decided to move on. And Beaver fans are felt like they've been done dirty because he was not, he wasn't transparent. Oh, as close as, my agent should be talking to people. That's his job, this and that. But I don't think any Beaver fan seriously felt that he was going to leave. But he did. And he could have solidified himself. He was already a legend, right? But he could have not left, and he could have got the Beavers through the next 2 years with no conference, and then they could have figured it out. And he could have kept the ship upright, made his $6 million a year, and then he would have been a legend. But this feels like the Titanic hitting the iceberg. And Captain Smith, ironic, jumping off first in his own lifeboat with nobody else on it. A couple assistants. I'll take my first mate, take a couple of my crew. No passengers though. And he's out because Oregon State is in a tough spot right now. I hope they figure it out because this Duck fan doesn't like it. This Duck fan doesn't like losing the Civil War. This Duck fan does not like Oregon State fans dealing with this right now because they shouldn't have to. I love to hate on the Beavers because it's the rivalry and that's part of the rivalry. But I'm smart enough to know that Oregon pride, right? State pride. I want to watch. I don't want my fellow football fans in my state to have to deal with this nonsense. So I hope for the best for Oregon State. They got to hire the right guy, though. They got to hire the right guy because it's going to be tough sledding. And my question is, who wants the job? Who wants to be the guy to come coach a team that has, not the best of rumors behind closed doors with the financial situation, not a team that has no direction right now as to what they're going to do because they're doing this Pac-2 thing and, a partnership of sorts with the Mountain West, but there is no conference. There's no nothing. It's a lot of unknowns, and I think that's scary for anyone who wants to take that job. As Devin said, the Smith did the Beavers dirty, and that sucks. And he really did. He really did because his announcement or his press conference, I guess today, it was one of the press conferences on media availability. But he's like, in my mind, like this has been done for a while. Like when? Like, was this like 2 weeks on, 3 weeks ago? You knew you were gone? That's such a disservice to the university and those fans and those kids. But this is also a don't hate the player, hate the game type thing, right? And we'll get back to basketball in a second. But this is also a don't hate the player, hate the game type thing, man, because the early signing period makes it so these coaches have to try to get to their next spot as quickly as possible because otherwise they're going to miss out on the recruiting period and they have to get there. Might have to consider moving that thing back because players have periods in which they can't sign or they can't transfer or they can't do this, they can't do that. But coaches, you can just leave whenever you want. Coach the team week 1, be it a new team in week 2. Who cares? I don't like that at all. I don't like that at all. And no, I didn't like it when Mario did it. I don't like it when Smith just did it. Does suck if you're a Beaver fan. So again, Beaver fans, this Duck fan reaches his hand out to say, I'm here for you. I'll be here with you. If you need a shoulder to cry on, I got you. We're from Oregon. We're used to getting soaked. It's okay. All right, back to basketball, though. Tonight, the Blazers going to take on the Pacers in Indiana. We're going to take a quick break on this show. When we come back, we're going to give you your Coors, cold hard truths. Some truths about your Blazers, some truths about these Pacers, and kind of talk about what the Blazers need to do to maybe get back to their winning ways. They really don't have a lot of that this year, but getting a W would be pretty nice tonight. Chris Burkhardt here. Blazers Game Day continues after the break on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio, 620. But Shaden Sharp has been pretty rough since the start of the year. Need to get more from him. Scoot Henderson hasn't had a night where he's just blown the doors off. Last night was good, 5 for 10, 3 for 4, but he wasn't as active as he could have been. But we'll see how that goes. I just don't know. The first half was great. I just don't know how many times you're going to see that. Second fact, and kudos, I'd mentioned it earlier in the show, but kudos to Kirk. I believe it was in the chat who mentioned it as well. But the Blazers have got to get DeAndre Ayton more involved. They have got to. He's playing well. He is playing well. And he pulled down his 13 rebounds last night, got his 2 blocks. You like what he's doing on the defensive end. You like what he's doing on the glass. You need that. But when he's hitting shots at a high clip and he's only getting 6 shots within the flow of the offense, that's not enough. And again, also to Kirk's next comment, and if you don't know who Kirk is, I don't know who Kirk is, but I see his name in the YouTube chat, and you should go over there too. Go to YouTube, type in Rip City Radio, like, share, subscribe, get in on the chats. It's a good way for you to get in on the conversation. I'll read the chats. We'll talk about it on the show. But as Kirk says, please, someone explain why Brogdon and Grant get every shot. Those two won't be on the roster in 2 years. Well, I don't know if there's a huge incentive to move off of Grant just yet. I think if Shaden and Scoot and Ant learn to play together and they click, that having Grant is very, very valuable. Brogdon, yeah, find a way to get some assets for him. But to your point, Kirk, regardless, again, DeAndre Ayton, 6 shots total. Brogdon, 23? Rough. I know Blazer fans struggle with that too. Like, why is Malcolm Brogdon going ISO ball late in the game? They just don't have they just don't have a lot of alternatives. Again, he is a reliable vet, as Marcus just commented, and I get that. But I do want to see ways for Ayton to absolutely get more involved. And I don't think that's on him. That's on just finding ways to run the place. And as I've said this with Chad, part of that is too, again, how many of these games did we play with Skylar Mays? And now you got Brogdon getting back into the rotation. You got to find ways to learn to play next to Scoot. Like he hasn't really had a consistent partner to run the pick and roll with yet. So that helps. But get him more involved, darn it. Also, the last cold hard facts, 3 of them. I do think that this defense is for real. I know the OKC game buoyed what was playing as a top 10 defense, but they have shown the improvement without a doubt. Without a doubt. Kamara plays great on the ball. Matisse Thybulle has been really good the last couple of games on that end. Jabari Walker, much improved. The only bad part is those 3 guys who play really good defense. All 3 of them combined for 15 points, because when they're on the floor, your offense isn't great. It isn't great. But I do love it. As I mentioned to start the show, like I loved that early in the game, it was Tamani Kamara manned up on Dame. Like, we're going to throw our rookie out there and say, hey, we're going to have you go guard one of the best point guards in the game, a guy who's got dribbles, who's got handles, who has a bag, who nobody in this league can guard anyway, and we're going to have you go do your best. And he did a good job. And again, I also like that it was him, and then at times it was Thybulle. There was times it was Grant. The way this team was moving defensively was something I feel like I haven't seen in a while. There has been times where the defense just looked lost. The defense didn't look lost. Now in the second half, Dame starts hitting shots. Giannis starts going Giannis mode, and Giannis cannot be stopped, right? Like, when Giannis decides that he's getting to the rim, he's getting to the rim. So, like, I get it. But I loved what I saw within the defensive rotations, within the defensive sets. And then everyone argued, though, oh, Dame can't play a lick of defense. He can't play a lick of defense. Yeah, but he can play a whole lot of offense. And you're seeing the difference it makes not having that one guy within your offense. Because this offense is night and day with and without Damian Lillard. It's unbelievable. Truly, it is. I mean, Dame deserves a ton of credit. Yes, I get it. Everyone wants to go to the defense. Oh, no, he can't guard anybody in the league. He's absolutely terrible. That's why our defense is bad. Okay, maybe. But he's also why your offense was consistently one of the best in the league. And without him, now you're like, who do we have to make a shot? Why is Malcolm Brogdon taking ISO situations late in the game? Oh, it's because you don't have Dame. Like, you were so pampered to have one of the best closers in the game that without him, you're just like, what do we do? What do we do? It's rough. All right. YouTube comments. Kirk says the Bucks looked unathletic. No way they're winning a championship. Okay. That's a one way of putting it. I think they've already won a championship with the unathletic look. They were told Brook Lopez was too old. Bobby Portis had bounced around. Giannis needed help. They got one. They got one. I think they're just still trying to figure it out because it's similar to what I said about the offensive Dame. Like they're trying to fill up that hole left by Drew Holiday. They also don't have Chris Middleton. I saw that he was in street clothes. Like I was wondering if he's like, does he ever play anymore? Like is he like the Eastern Conference Kawhi Leonard? Like always hurt, never know what's up. They still have a chance, Kirk. But Boston is playing. They're good, and they move faster than Milwaukee, right? I don't know if unathletic is the word, but I do get what you're saying because I felt like there was times where Milwaukee just looked like slow and weird. Didn't seem right. Boston plays frantic in a good way, like controlled chaos at times. They're just moving nonstop. So I liked that. Orlando's a shock too out in the East. Like who saw that coming? Who saw Orlando? Like, yep, we're just gonna come up here. We're gonna start being good all of a sudden. I said when Portland played them earlier in the year, I was like, Miami, like Orlando's better than they were last year. Like they're not going to be an easy out, man. So I predicted that they were going to be better. I didn't predict that they were going to be 12-5 in second place in the East come the end of November. So good on them. I don't know who else you got in the East. 76ers, Nick Nurse doing a great job. Indiana is a team that if they click, they can get it going. We talked about Tyrese Halliburton earlier. He's good. Marcus says Orlando is this year's Jazz. I think they are for this year, but I also think there's a difference between Orlando and Utah. And the thing is, Utah sold off on Gobert, struck it hot, had a good year, and then they fell back down this year. They're struggling. Now Walker Kessler's missed some games. They still are trying to wheel and deal, get some pieces in, but they struck while it was hot, and then they came back down. Orlando has been down, got their young pieces, got Paulo Banchero, who's great. Cole Anthony's playing great. Wendell Carter's been good for them. The Wagner brothers, I don't think they're going back down. Like maybe, they end the year 6th in the East, but I don't think they're going to be out of the playoffs, in the playoffs this year and then out of the playoffs the next. Like if they're in the playoffs this year, they're continuing that trend. I think that's where a difference is between them. Who's the bigger surprise team? Sound off in the chat. Is it Orlando in the East or Minnesota in the West? Because right now, Minnesota, 12-4. Winning percentage-wise, the second best record in the NBA, first place in the Western Conference. Unbelievable. Anthony Edwards playing so well. Rudy Gobert playing like a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. Now, I was laughed at last year. I was laughed out of the building when I said I could see it working because I honestly think Gobert and Towns can play together if you put Towns at the 4.
No, there's no way, Burkhardt. That's just, he's a center. Can't have two centers on the floor like that. Two big bodies can't guard anything. They're not going to do any good. I was laughed at for saying that last year. And they took their bumps last year, don't get me wrong. This year, though, yeah, I think my point's being proven. They can play together. And you know who deserves a ton of credit for their success? An absolute ton? Mike Conley. That guy. He was the Dame of Memphis, right? Face of the franchise. He and Marc Gasol. And they moved on from him because they decided it was time to rebuild. They got lucky enough to get Ja and said, yep, this is where we're going. Sent him out to Utah. He bounced around. Now here he is in Minnesota, just playing just like Mike Conley. Slow, calm, controlled, doing what he needs to win games. I absolutely love it. Speaking of winning games, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I'm going to give you my keys to the game. Tell you what I think needs to happen for your Portland Trailblazers to get the win tonight. And don't go anywhere because 3 o'clock, Chad Doing takes over with the Blazers pregame show. Chris Burkhardt here, Blazers Game Day on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620.
To have the best Toyota pricing in Oregon with our Swickard Price Promise.
All right, it is time for Chris Burkhardt's keys to the game. All right, key number 1. Attack the glass, baby. DeAndre Ayton had a double-double, I believe. I was looking at that box score. Was it 13 and 12, if I remember correct? No, excuse me, 14 and 13 against the Bucks. Have another big night like that on the glass. Coming into this game, Indiana and Portland are the 29th and 28th worst rebounding teams in the league. So it's a good match. Indiana averages 40.1. Portland averages 40.9. I think this is a game where if you're DeAndre Ayton, Shaedon Sharpe, who can be a good rebounder, Scoot Henderson, who has that ability, go get those rebounds, beat Indiana on the glass. Then you have a chance. All right. Another good battle going on in this game is the fact that Indiana comes into this game offensively one of the best. Defensively, they're not so good. But offensively, they average 30.3 assists per game. It's a lot. That's a lot. The Blazers, though, they average 9 steals a game, the third most in the NBA. And watching the game against Milwaukee, what I really liked is the way that they were rotating. They were able to get hands in the passing lanes, disrupt those passes, disrupt the ball movement. And so it's kind of a defensive strength of the Blazers versus the offensive strength of the Pacers. Which one gives first? I want to see the Blazers be uber aggressive in those passing lanes. Get some of those steals. Get in those lanes, knock the passes out, get the Pacers uncomfortable. Third key to the game. I don't know if it's really a key to winning or not, but I want to see Scoot up over 30. I want to see him up over 30 minutes. Really get going. Get a nice, good run with the starting rotation. And a little less Malcolm Brogdon bringing the ball up and a little more Scoot bringing the ball up. Let him run the point. As I said earlier in the show, let Scoot be Scoot. I think that's huge. And we usually do 3 keys to the game, but I'm just going to throw the 4th one out there because we've talked about it already. And shout out to our chatters who have talked about it as well. But DeAndre Ayton, can we get like 10 shots out of Ayton? I want to see him get going. He needs to get more involved within this offense. Kirk wants to know how was fried turkey. The fried turkey was good. Turkey's still mad overrated, though. Mad overrated. Went over to my sister-in-law. She had the turkey, but her husband also made the brisket. Yeah, brisket. That's money. That is money on Thanksgiving. Give me a little bit of mashed potatoes, some gravy, stuffing, because stuffing is always a winner. And then give me some brisket. Absolutely love it. But again, I want to point out, I said, get him more involved. So DeAndre Ayton, he had 18 points against Phoenix, but he got 14 shot attempts, right? And he shot 9 of 14, so he shot the ball well. You go back to his 22-point performance, which is his high of the year. He had 22 and 10 against Utah on the road. He had 17 shot attempts, made 10 of them, so he still shot at a good clip, 58%. Good things happen when he gets shot attempts, guys. Against Detroit, 13 shot attempts. He had 16 points. 11 shot attempts against Memphis, 16 points. 14 shot attempts against Sacramento, 18 points. And in all those games, shot about 60% or better. Got to do it. Got to do it. Rip City Radio chimes in, which means that was super producer Shacker. The sister cooked fish at mom's house on Thanksgiving. House smelled bad. It's like the other day when someone heated up fish in the microwave. Oh my gosh, who does that? Eat your fish cold. Don't kill the office like that. All right, that music means one thing, and that is it's time to get out of here for this show. But don't go anywhere, because in about 4 minutes, the man Chad Doing is going to take over. I know you guys love him. I love Chan, just like the next guy. All right, he's going to take over. Blazers, Pacers coming at you at 4. Blazers postgame with Chad doing right after that. And, of course, right back here with yours truly on the fifth quarter. Real quick, on about 10 seconds. YouTube, like, share, subscribe, join the chat. We'll see you after the game.